Good day to you all. BK Voice over here. And wow. um yeah, that's all I can really say right now is wow. I mean during the season I was when we were 3-8, I was like, get Russ out of here. We gotta we're not winning with him right now. We gotta move on and get as much as we can for Russ and rebuild. And lo and behold, that seems to be exactly what's happening this offseason. In case you haven't heard, Russell Wilson has officially been traded to the Denver Broncos. He's waived his no trade clause. He's passed his physical, so he's all good to go as far as he's concerned. Just this really hit me out of left field. I was chilling at work and checked my phone, and lo and behold, I saw oh yeah, a random tweet that Drew Lock is part of this trade with Seattle, and I'm like, what trade with Seattle? And then I scrolled a few down, and my heart fell out of my chest. So, the full trade compensation, Broncos get Russell Wilson and a 4th round pick. The Seahawks get 2 first-round picks, one this year, one next year. 2 second-round picks, one this year, one next year. A 5th-round pick, quarterback Drew Lock, defensive end Shelby Harris, and tight end Noah Fant. Well, Shelby Harris is he's a 3-4 defensive end, which means he'd be more of a big end in Seattle. So he can play interior or on the outside. So, as far as my thoughts on the trade, personally, I think they could have got more, but at this point, I think it was Russ wanted out. Russ would not have waived his no trade clause if he did not want out of Seattle. So if he wants out, let him go and get as much as you possibly can for him. I think the Rodgers deal might have had something to do with that as well. I think the Seahawks sat down and were like, we don't want to sign this guy. We do not want to sign Russ to an extension. Again. So I think that they thought we don't have the talent to win in the next 2 years. So we're not going to deal with this. We're just going to trade him now and get as much as we can. So just like that, the winningest QB in his first 10 seasons in NFL history is off the Seahawks. Led the team along with the Legion of Boom, that won us our first ever Super Bowl title against said Denver Broncos. He'll be the first quarterback to play for a team that he beat in a Super Bowl. That's just kind of wild to me. But anyways, let's take a look at the players that we got in return. So Drew Lock, PFR. So Drew Lock drafted in the 2nd round in the 2019 draft, I think 43rd overall. Didn't really play a ton his rookie season. Played in 5 games toward the end of the season, starting 5 of those games. Started 5 games. He was okay in his limited snaps. He had a 64% completion rate, not exactly great. 7 TDs to 3 picks, a decent enough touchdown to interception ratio. 1,200 yards, so barely averaging over 200 yards a game. So he was fine, I guess. 2020 started 13 games and was not that good. Threw 16 touchdowns to 15 picks, a 57.3% completion percentage. Averaged a little higher in yards per game, but yeah, not a great player. Definitely had a big turnover problem. 2021, Teddy Bridgewater came in and he was basically the starting quarterback. He played in some limited fashion when Teddy Bridgewater was injured, so played in 6, started 3 games. 60.4 completion percentage, 787 yards, 2 TDs, 2 picks. Not great. I mean, I don't think anybody here really expects Andrew Luck to... Not Andrew Luck. Drew Lock. Well, I mean, his full name is Andrew, but Drew Lock, I don't think anybody expects him to start. I think he's going to be your backup at best. But, good measurables. That's something he has going for him. The next one I'm actually a little bit more excited for. I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't really know a whole lot about Shelby Harris until now. Drafted in the 7th round by the Oakland Raiders in 2014. He had a pretty quiet career. He did literally nothing in Oakland when he was drafted. Then he went over to Denver and he quietly started racking up some decent seasons. 5.5 sacks, 1.5 sacks, but he didn't start in any games. 6 sacks, 2.5 sacks, and then this recent year started 16 of 17 games, 2 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, 6 sacks, 49 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 11 QB hits. That's a great stat line for a rotational pass rusher. Yeah. And from what I hear from a couple of my friends that are Broncos fans, they were really, really sad to see him go. They call him, he's a great person, a huge leader in the locker room. So yeah, I think he'll be a decent addition to the team going forward. And then last but not least, the pickup that I think has the highest upside is Noah Fant. First of all, he has some really good pedigree. He was a first-round pick. He was drafted 20th overall by the Broncos in 2019. His first 3 seasons, he's been good. His numbers aren't going to blow you away. He's not Travis Kelce. He's not George Kittle. But he is absolutely he would be the best tight end we've had in years. He'll be the best tight end we've had since Jimmy Graham. He's not going to blow you away with any numbers rookie year, 562 yards, 3 touchdowns. But he's only been improving. He's only been improving since every year. So played in 15 games, 62 catches, 673 yards, 3 touchdowns in 2020. And then with an extra game, he had 68 catches, 670 yards, and 4 touchdowns. The nice thing about, so Drew Lock, we have under contract for 1 more season. Aside from that, Noah Fant, we have him under contract for 1 more season, but we can also, I think it's a no-brainer. I think they're going to go ahead and do his 5th-year option. So we'll have club control over him for the next 2 years. It's really cheap. His 5th-year option's really cheap. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but that's a no-brainer, especially when he's part of this trade. So if we go and we take a look at the roster as it stands right now, this is the roster, including all of the, all of the futures deals that the Seahawks signed. So some of the names you'll see here that you might not recognize are all previous practice squad players. So first of all, we are going to take Russell Wilson out of the QB spot, and we are going to replace him with Drew Lock. Next up, we'll go to tight end. Colby Parkinson is no longer tight end 1. That goes to Noah Fant. I think it's absolutely possible we'll still find another tight end in free agency, or possibly draft another tight end. So we'll take a look and see what happens there. And then we also signed, we got Shelby Harris, who I think he can play 3-tech, but I think he'll be most at home at that big end spot, that 5-tech position. So yeah, at this point, I think the Seahawks realize that they're not going to be competitive. They don't plan to be competitive, at least for the next few years. And at this point, I think it makes all the sense in the world that you go ahead and you trade anything that's worth any major value. One of the names, and I really hope it doesn't end up being him, but I've seen Tyler Lockett's name thrown around in that apparently he's on the trade block as well, which would suck because I love Lockett. I have his jersey. It just really sucks. But I guess if there's any silver lining that goes in here, this does open the door to really go all out in the off season, to really rebuild this from the ground up and go after players that you were too scared to because you had to pay Russ. So yeah, all things considered, while it's terrible that we lost our franchise QB, our winningest QB in franchise history, I think this is a good opportunity to start over and to. I think if this is done right, we could be competitive again in just a couple of years if we are able to find that QB. Whether that's in this draft, which I hope they don't really focus too much on QB in this draft. Just because I think it is a weaker class. I really want them to stack up at some of the stronger positions like cornerback, defensive end, offensive tackle. Hell, with pick number 9 in this draft now from the Broncos, I wouldn't be opposed to getting Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa. That dude is just a monster. Or maybe, if you don't want to bring back either Sidney Jones or DJ Reed, going and getting somebody like a Sauce Gardner. I think that would be awesome. So anyways, those are my thoughts. I just really wanted to get my thoughts on paper about what I thought about this and to give you all an update on what I thought. So I appreciate you guys for stopping by. We'll get through this. We've been a good team before Russ. We've made it to a Super Bowl with Matt Hasselbeck. This is hardly the end. This is the end of an era of the Seahawks franchise. But that just means that we're at the start of a new journey, and that's something to look forward to. So have a great night, everybody. Go Hawks.